Alright guys, welcome to another video from XF Motorsports. In this one we have a Bentley Continental GTC in the shop, and well, there's a reason why we're actually filming it from the back, because there's not too much left in the front. This is a bit of a mystery car. It was in a front collision, and there's a few things that we know are broken on it, like some of the pulleys on the front engine mounts, but really in this video we're going to be taking stuff apart, seeing what repairs we have to do on this car to actually get it running. And yeah, Sebastian's going to explain how we're going to...
So we're going to start off with checking the engine, if it turns and if it's not internally damaged. And after that, if everything is okay, then we're going to remove the engine and try to replace or fix everything that needs to be fixed on the car.
Yeah, so this is a car where like parts and stuff are going to be expensive, so of course we need to figure out like what we can repair and what of course can't be repaired and needs to be replaced. And yeah, then depending on what damage we find, we need to come up with a plan to actually fix it and try to get the car running again. So starting off by showing you guys the car, this is a 2012 GTC I believe, and it only has 20,000 kilometers I believe on it. But other than that, when you get to the front, the story does not look too good. It was in a bit of a front collision, and of course there is quite a bit more damage underneath it that we can't see from the top. So at first when I looked at the car I thought it wouldn't be too bad, but once you actually start looking at it close, there's quite a bit of a few little things that are damaged, like this alternator bracket that is cracked over here, and this coolant line or something that is cracked. The pulley at the front doesn't even spin, and obviously there's quite a few things missing too from the car that I think those are the more concerning things, because if it's just in a collision, and then we know that we just have to fix up the damage and put things back together. But there's also that ABS module missing over here. There's a few plugs and a few other things disconnected, and well, figuring out that part of the story, putting all the electronics together, might be a bit of a tricky thing. But first let me just lift up the car, show you guys everything, all the damage that is underneath it. So now here's a look underneath the Bentley, and this is where the story does not look too good. So there's a whole subframe that's supposed to be here, but it's broken. It's not even over there. You go back here and then you find more damage on the transmission. The transmission mount is broken, and actually a part of the transmission itself is all broken from here, and you can see all the transmission fluid dripping out. So that of course is something that will most likely need to be welded back together, because well, other than that, it's probably going to be a part of the whole transmission housing, the one that's broken. So at the back there's a few things unplugged. This is, I believe, the wire for the emergency electronic parking brake. I'm not sure, I still haven't looked into it too much. And also these exhaust valves were hanging down when we saw them. We put them back in, but yeah, they come down like that, so that is also not good. So well, yeah, that's pretty much what we can see just looking at the car from the outside. But now let's actually get into looking at the engine, inspecting if the engine is fine right now, because the concerning thing about the engine is, well, the alternator bracket is of course broken. The pulley that is for the water pump is also broken, and also there's this oil thing over here. I'm not sure what it was, but the whole thing is broken, and that clearly was, I believe, an oil pressure gallery, because well, it looks like this would have been the thing. And yeah, the whole thing is broken from here. So if the engine was running after the crash, it probably would have lost oil pressure. So that's why we want to make sure that the engine is good before we start too much work on it, because of course the engine is probably going to be the most expensive part if that's beyond repair. So let's start off with that. Let's start off by taking the spark plugs out, trying to actually turn the engine, and then looking inside it, seeing what the condition is, and then going from there and finding out what we find. Okay, so the first bad news is that when we try to spin the engine is not even turning. Yeah, neither clockwise nor counterclockwise. That's the bolt loosening, not the engine turning. So that's pretty bad. That means, yeah, the engine is seized for whatever reason. So next, what we are going to do is we're going to take the spark plugs out. We're going to put a scope inside it, make sure that there's nothing broken, at least from the top. Of course, if the engine is seized, that is like a bit of bad news, because we'll have to find out why it's seized. Either there would be something broken inside it, or there would be something like physically stuck, like the bearings. If it was run without oil, then the bearings could have been seized. So either way, yeah, we have to figure that out. So first we're going to do the easier step, of course, taking the spark plugs out, making sure all the cylinders look okay. We'll have to take the intake manifold out for that. So far into the teardown, things are looking pretty okay. We took the ignition coils off, we took all the spark plugs out, took the intake manifold off, of course, and we were looking inside the engine, trying to see if there's any catastrophic damage. But the good news is that, well, there is no catastrophic damage inside it. Everything seems pretty intact. All the pistons, cylinder walls actually look pretty clean. We have already removed the wiring harness. This is the main engine wiring harness that goes to the two ECUs that sit over there. But yeah, it's removing the engine is actually, thankfully, not too difficult in this one. All the connectors are quick remove. They're fairly easy to remove. All the wires plug out easily, and it's fairly organized the way they've done things. So yeah, we've already removed the fuel line, we've already removed some of the coolant lines and all the electronics, and next we just need to get on to removing a few more things from the top. After that, we're going to be lifting the car up, removing a few things from underneath, and then we will be able to remove the engine along with the subframe out of the car. Here's a look at things underneath the car after disassembling, while taking out the exhaust, some shields, and well, after taking all that off, what we realized was that there's quite a bit more damage underneath. This drive shaft, this thing is supposed to sit over here, but it has actually slid back over here, so now the drive shaft is just flopping around like that, and well, that means that probably the transmission mount and the transmission, the reason they broke was not because of being hit underneath. It was probably because the impact at the front was so hard that it pushed the entire transmission back enough that it like pushed the drive shaft out of here, broke this thing, and I'm not sure if it went all the way back to the differential, if the differential is in its proper place right now or not. It doesn't look like there's any damage on this part, just looking at it, but again, I guess we'll have to take things apart more and then really see how much is damaged and how much is not damaged, and then try to start fixing things from there. So after removing quite a few things from underneath the car, this is what we have ended up with. We have well, removed the drive shaft from the back. We have taken the exhaust out that was probably already off before when I showed you the car. Unplugged all the transmission cooler lines, engine oil cooler lines. Pretty much, yeah, everything that had to be disconnected underneath is disconnected now, and now next we are at the point where we need to put some axle stands underneath. We need to disconnect the suspension bolts over there, removing these few bolts that are holding this whole bracket that holds the ear strut and also the upper control arms, and also we need to disconnect the steering rack tie rod end from here. And once we disconnect that, the whole wheel and pretty much the whole front suspension should come out with the whole entire subframe. So that's pretty much the easiest way to remove the engine and transmission as the whole, like, one big piece. And yeah, once it's out, then of course there's going to be more space to look at everything, because right now, of course, the engine bay is so tight that you can't even see anything. You can't even see the turbos. There are turbos somewhere in there, but of course everything is so tight that there's barely any space to, well, do anything. I don't even think you can remove an alternator on this engine without taking it out. So after quite a bit of work, the W12 bi-turbo engine is finally out of the Bentley, and well, now you can see the full picture. You can see the little turbos on the sides, and yeah, everything on the side that you couldn't see when the engine was in there, because it's so tightly packed that you can't turn a bolt on it when all this is inside the engine. But well, of course, the bad thing is that also the damage is quite a lot worse after we looked at it when the engine is finally outside the car. So this is all the parts that you couldn't see before, where most of the damage actually is on the back of the engine, and well, yeah, the worst part of the damage is this one. The whole valve cover and the timing cover, and also the cam adjuster, I believe, is broken. The timing chain has almost slipped on the sprocket, but I don't think it has slipped completely, because at least looking at inside the engine, well, when I scoped it, it didn't seem like any of the valves or anything had hit the piston, so hopefully that hasn't happened. But of course that's something that I will have to take a bit more of this engine apart to find out if that's the case. But yeah, it definitely looks pretty bad over here. This water pump thing at the back, I think it's the auxiliary water pump, that's damaged. The O2 sensors. So basically what happened was that the engine got hit from the front, but because it broke off the engine mounts and everything, the whole engine went back into the chassis, and it hit the firewall and all those places that you see damaged on it. And that's what really did most of the damage, not the damage on the front that we could see when the engine was inside the car. So it's pretty crazy. I don't even think the crash was that bad that the car was in. At least, well, looking at the hood, it doesn't seem that bad, and it's crazy how much damage there is on this engine even from that crash. And here's a look at the transmission mount that was cracked. So the whole case of the transmission is literally just ripped apart from here because of this. So of course that will need to be welded back together. That's of course where all the transmission fluid went, because of which there was no transmission fluid inside this transmission. This part is also broken. Pretty much, yeah, everything at the back of this, even the exhaust got hit over here. So I'm not sure if the cats would be broken inside it, but yeah, quite a bit of damage, quite a lot worse than what it looked like when the engine was inside the car. Even on this side, the valve covers are all cracked from here. And well, the part of the story that we still don't get to see, which we will get to see really soon actually, is underneath the engine, how bad things are over there. But I am going to be taking this engine off the subframe really soon, because well, the plan for this one was that I had to take the engine out of the car, I had to take the engine off the subframe, put the subframe back in the car so the person can actually tow the car back to the body shop and get the bodywork fixed up while I fix up the engine and then get this car running again. But I think, while looking at this damage, I think it's better to actually have a word with the person first, show him the full extent of damage on this car, and then really make a plan and see where he wants to go with it. Because well, at least what I thought how much damage I would see on it, this seems quite a lot worse than that. So yeah, let's do that first, and then try to come up with a plan and see how we can get this car running again. So now finally the engine and transmission are off the subframe, and if you're wondering what's the weight of this engine and transmission, it actually weighs 432 kilograms. That's like ridiculously heavy. That's probably the heaviest engine and transmission I think I've seen so far. Anyways, telling you guys the plan for this the engine and car, like how we're planning to fix it now. So I did already show the owner all the damages, and he was actually pretty quick to find another used engine for it. So that used engine is actually from an older Bentley. It's from a 2008 Bentley. This one is a 2015. But basically the point of buying that engine is so that all the broken bits on this engine, like the valve cover, timing chain, sprocket, all that stuff we can carry over from that engine, put it on this engine, and makes this engine basically new again, because inside it is a fairly clean engine. It is a really low mileage engine, and it's also the newer one. So of course, doing everything that way, we'll end up with one engine that is going to be perfect for this car. So a day later, an update on the Bentley. We put a new subframe, well, a used subframe in this car, because the owner dropped this one. He was thinking this original subframe of the car is going to be damaged, but as it turns out, all the measurements, everything from this one and that one are exactly the same. There is no damage on that entire subframe, and of course that also means that the chassis is not bent at all, because all the bolting points are lining up. So this crash doesn't even seem like that bad of a crash actually when you look at the chassis, but it's crazy how much damage it did to the engine and all the functional parts in the car. Usually it's the other way around. Usually the chassis takes most of the damage and all the parts are usually okay in a crash like this. But since it's a Bentley, and yeah, things work differently on this car, I guess that's the situation with this one. But luckily this is the used engine that we got today, and this one is yeah, the one that I was talking about, the one from the 2008 Bentley, and things are looking really similar on this engine and that engine, so that's really good news. I think most of the things we'll be able to, like, we will be able to take it from this engine and put it on that one. The only, well, small problems with this one is that it is missing a few parts, of course, like one ignition coil missing from here and a few miscellaneous things along the way, a few cut wires, but that's okay because we have an entire other engine over here. So hopefully between these two engines we are going to be able to swap all the parts that we need and come up with one engine that is going to work. But I'm not going to start work on this one right now. This one is probably going to be some more content for the next video, starting work on the engine and trying to fix that up. For now, what I need to do is I need to put all this subframe and stuff back in the car so that the car can be back on its wheels and we can roll it out of the shop. So that is going to be everything for the Bentley for this video. Its next stop is going to be the body shop, where it's going to hopefully get fixed up, and hopefully by the time it comes back here, all the body work is going to be done on it, and well, hopefully in time for that. I also need to get an engine ready and transmission ready, so I need to swap parts between this engine and that one. I need to weld up the transmission case so it's not leaking anymore. So yeah, hopefully you guys will have to wait a couple of weeks before that video comes out, but pretty crazy to see that just this little bit of a crash, like this is all the damage on the hood, but underneath everything was broken. The engine, the transmission, drive shaft, all the way till the differential. Also, while showing you guys some more things that you guys are going to be seeing on the channel really soon, the E55 ASL, we were working on some body work on this car, trying to finish up on the body work because summer's already here. I was actually driving this car around just around the block, and yeah, it's a really fun car to drive. I really want to finish it up this time in time for summer so that we can take it out on track with its complete body work on tires that will actually get up to temperature properly, so we could really see what type of lap times this car will give us. Even last year was pretty quick. We did 1:16 around TMP, but I think the car can actually go much faster than that once it's fully complete and once I get used to actually driving it. So yeah, definitely want to finish up on this one, take it out on track and have some fun with it. And well, also before that, another car that you guys are going to be seeing a video on, this one, the E55 that we manual swapped, we put a CD09 transmission in it, so the same transmission that's actually in this car is also in this one. So we were on the last part, just working on the electronics, finishing up everything, but it was taking a while because, well, yeah, just figuring everything out, and we also had to make a gated shifter for it that the owner wants me to add. And once all that is done, you guys are going to be seeing a video on this one, which is going to be the last video on this car. And after that, yeah, this car is going to be heading back. Also, well, some more videos you guys are going to be seeing on this car, the R107 Mercedes SL that we're putting a C63 engine in. This one needs quite a bit of work before it gets done, and also the F1 project. Hopefully we're getting really close to the point where we're going to start putting that engine back together so that well, it's complete and then we can actually test it. And well, the funny thing is, even after all these projects are out of the way, there's still quite a few more projects stacking up that will be coming in after a few of these cars are out of the shop. So yeah, definitely is going to be a really busy summer. Quite a lot of cool content for you guys hopefully coming up soon. So yeah, that's everything for now. Thanks a lot for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.